Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Non-Fungible Rebels. It's me, Anne Alexander, and today I'm speaking to a real OG from the space, B, aka Beauty and Punk. Welcome to the studio. I'm really happy we connected in Zebu Live. We met in person, which is always a good thing. I really love meeting people in person because online is really good, but it's the second best thing to real life. Interactions.
Completely agree.
Yeah, welcome to the studio. And I guess for those who don't know you and don't know what you're doing in the space, you've been around for quite a long time from the almost very beginning. So tell us the story of about how you got here and what are you doing in the space at the moment.
Yeah, no, first of all, like thank you for having me. It was really great to meet you in person. And I have just been starting to go to events, so I am really happy to be able to go to events and meet people and have this different connection. So thank you everyone who's watching, and maybe we'll see each other in the next event as well. Yeah, so I started in 2017 when I claimed CryptoPunks. I started with ETH a little bit before in 2016, and that's how I got to the CryptoPunks thing, like trying to learn about it, try to learn about blockchain and Ethereum, just being a geek and a nerd, as one is in the space. And that's how I got it. I used to collect previously, like offline art, just traditional art. Whenever I used to go to museums, I would buy postcards when I was like a student. And then I started having grown up money. I started buying like local artists and, things I could afford. And then NFTs happened and I just kept collecting. It just seemed natural, just the thing to
Mm.
do because I like collecting art. And being that early, it was a different place than it is now. Also, there were a lot less women. There were a lot
Yeah,
less of us.
I remember those times. Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
We had a conversation about this in London actually. So yeah, it was it
yes.
was difficult. It was, well, not difficult, but it was different. And this is something that I am working now. So I am a co-founder of the project called Nebula Web 3, where we onboard and we onboard and train people from underprivileged communities, and we have programs also specifically for women in the case of Ukrainian refugees here in Portugal, where I'm
Mhm.
based. And we are trying to give opportunity to people that otherwise wouldn't have where to look. There's not a bust blockchain that we can get. Oh, it's a really open space. Yes, but how do you even get in?
Yeah.
How do you even find the
It's
door?
overwhelming. In the very beginning, it's very overwhelming for people who are just
Yes,
coming in, right? Yeah.
and to find people you trust. Because that's another thing. Like when Web 3 is known for scams and people trying to take
Yeah.
advantage of you, how do you even find people that you can connect and you can trust? Where do you even start learning?
Yeah.
And we none of us got to where we are without some help and support and encouragement, at least. So this was, our way, my co-founder and I, so our way of doing that for other people, of trying to give back.
Mm.
So it's been running. We've had over 200 people already in programs since May, like so past 6 months, over 200 people already. So it's working well. We're really happy, and that's part time. The other part time I'm building, as punks do, as people who are early to this technology do, building a fashion brand that is way more than a fashion brand. I love technology, and I know that fashion is not going to be what it was years ago. So how do we
Mhm.
build this new fashion? What do we want to wear, and what do we want our clothes to do for us? It other than just it's a vehicle of our personality, how we express ourselves, but what else? What else can we do with it? What else can it do for us? So this is what we are working on now.
Okay, sounds awesome. Well, actually, when I was networking at Zebu Live, someone was asking me whether I'm in Web3 fashion. So, if I knew, I would just, take them to you and
See,
introduce them to
well,
you.
maybe we do collaborate on something. If the vibe is there, I'm all willing to take it. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's go back to the times like, I remember when you said CryptoPunks, I just remembered that story where, one of my ex-bosses called me one day, super fascinated. He was like, you know what? I sold my 2 CryptoPunks, and guess how much they paid me? $1,600 per each. And he was so excited.
Yeah.
I never mentioned that to him later on, obviously, but this
Yeah.
kind of illustrates how back then, like, we were looking at things, right? No one was thinking that what happened would happen, and obviously not at the time when people were minting those CryptoPunks for free back in the days.
Yeah.
So what kind of, when you discovered that, what made you sort of, get attracted to that? How many did you mint? Like, let's go to that story, because I think those origin
Yeah.
stories are always very exciting, because everyone comes to those from different perspectives, right?
Yeah, there's always there's always something that attracts you to whatever you get into. And there are different facets of us, and we get attracted to different things. For me, it was a mix of, well, the technology, and I think everyone got in because of the technology as well. It was a different way of using the blockchain. And I liked that we were exploring different things. I liked that, there was this smart contract that we could interact with, and then we would claim, because they were all minted. So Matt and John had already minted them all. Like there was this huge matrix of CryptoPunks that you could choose from. So you knew which ones you were getting. It was not like minting, like we mint like either the Bored Apes or, like art blocks. You don't know what you're getting. You could really choose. So I would go through all of it. It was a mix of being a child, looking for stuff that you want to collect and that is fun, liking art because it was artistic in its own way. All these different things and traits and shapes and colors, right? So this mix of collectible, artistic, technology, it just seemed super interesting. I got a few. I didn't get like hundreds or thousands, because I thought, if this is ever something, what I have is enough. If it's not, then other people can have it too. Like either way, other people can have it too. Like I didn't have to have everything. So I got like 39, which I know it's a lot, but back then it was just a bit.
Out of 10,000 to choose 39, I think it's quite okay.
And stop,
Not too
like,
much.
because of, that's not too much. Yeah, and I got 4 apes back then. Like I had to look at the matrix and try to find it, but I did. I found 4 of them, and I claimed them. And 2 days after claiming, I put one for sale for 37 ETH. So, like your boss was saying, like it sold for 1,600. His punk.
Yeah. And back then it was what, like 200 or like even less? Okay.
Well, it was 2 years later that it sold. So it took a while. I don't remember by then how much ETH was, but still early days. Like this is from 2019. And it sold for 37 ETH. And I remember seeing it. I'm like, it sold. What? Someone paid 37 ETH for something that was for free? Like there is real assigned monetary value to it, because there is the value that, emotional value, and, the value that we give to things that are like immaterial value. But there is material value to this. What? I was surprised and happy. And also happy that I did state that in putting it for sale early on. I stated that I believed that it could get to that. And 2 years later, it materialized. So we materialized in 37 ETH for an ape sale. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, because like these days, as you said, back then the space was completely different. These days, most of the things start with speculation. Like the starting point is actually, I'm buying it because I believe that I'm going to sell it with much higher price, right? For much higher price. So that's kind of, the starting point for many people, and the reason they are getting into it. So it's very sort of, money centric, revolving about hopefully becoming richer thanks to this, etc. While I'm sure back then you didn't even think that these 38 CryptoPunks would actually be worth a substantial amount of money, right?
I never thought it would change my life the way it did. And that's for certain. Even when I thought that they would have value also in the monetary sense, sense, because it was something so unique. And in the Discord in the early days, like we assigned value to it by building a community around it, giving each other value for liking same things, so you want to appreciate the
Mhm.
person whom you share something with, and knowledge or a CryptoPunk. So we gave each other these boosts. So it was nice to
Yeah,
have that back then. But a lot of people see the NFT and Web3 in general as a business model, to make money.
yeah,
People do need to make money, and that pays bills, and that's a thing, but at what cost? And that, like, seeing communities get monetized the way they have been, especially on bull markets, that people build up communities just so they can rug them and leave with the
yeah,
money.
yeah,
And it's heartbreaking. People want to be part of community. It's human. We want to do that. So
yeah,
PFP projects will exist as long as there's something to join. There are people. We're always onboarding people. There are always new people coming into Web3, and they will happen for a really long time. So people will have this people searching for communities, and they
yeah,
will could always fall into the wrong hands inadvertently, because
yeah.
they don't know any better.
Yeah, especially if they are just starting, right? We
Yeah,
kind of touched to that point that,
yeah,
it's overwhelming. It's very hard to filter out the bad players in the beginning. They all look quite okay. Until you know better, until you find the right people who will guide you, and
yeah,
kind of, that trust judgment is not always the correct one. And I really think that's the thing, right? As you said, people really want to be part of communities, especially people who are attracted to this space. I feel like, they have this specific personality where most of them don't really meet too many like-minded people in real life around them. So that
yeah,
kind of, makes that need of becoming part of a community where people are, like them, it becomes even stronger, right? And
yeah.
I feel like,
Completely agree.
yeah, back in those days, that was a different vibe. Like, when you were part of a community, back in 2017, 16, like, it was really about community. It was about real, true, genuine connections. And it was about this feeling like, wow, I finally, like, found people who are like me. I didn't know there were so many people like me, right? Because I
Yeah,
didn't meet them in real life so much.
especially
So
women, because women are not in large numbers in tech spaces. That's
yeah,
just we
yeah,
don't have to go into this discussion of why. Like, there's a lot of research into this. There's a lot of things being published about it,
yeah,
but it's a fact. So you don't have many peers to talk to. And even if
yes,
I wanted to tell people about other women about CryptoPunks, either they would have shunned the idea of a mist wallet and a full node wallet, because no, I barely know how to use Excel.
yeah,
So you don't have this circle of people that you can share these ideas and discoveries with. So it's
yeah,
even harder when your whole environment is completely different than what you're trying to get into. So
yeah.
there's even that extra leap to
That's
take.
That's true. I do remember, like, since we touched events, like a bit back in those days in 2017 onwards, in the first few years when I got into also working in the space, I was going to these conferences, right? And it was really mind blowing. Like, huge conferences with 5,000 people, and then you would barely see 10 women in there, right?
Yep.
And that was, I mean, it was really good for the toilet lines, with not any queues.
Yeah.
That one is
which
for
is which is
sure,
very rare.
which is very
Yeah.
rare. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That is, quite fresh. But other than that, it was a bit sort of, I wouldn't say intimidating, because, I was lucky enough to meet really good people in the space, and many men have supported me along my journey. So, I don't really have any of, horror stories or uncomfortable stories
Thank
that,
goodness. Yeah.
many may have had, unfortunately. So I
Yeah.
can't really tell about that.
Yeah.
But still, it wasn't kind of, it wasn't very comfortable because the whole misbalance was very, very big. Now it's getting way better, but
It
back in those
is.
days, it
It
wasn't the
was
same.
tough. I've had some, like, not horror stories, but like some difficult stories from my previous Web3 days. And actually, the people I have interacted in Web3, they have been brilliant. They have been respectful, welcoming,
Yeah,
but there there's there's a privilege in being an OG, like being a CryptoPunk claimer. Once people know who you are, that you also treated differently. I am
mm,
not asked if I'm the plus one, but a lot of women are. Even if they are there on their own merits,
yeah,
people ask if they are the plus one. So if people don't know who I am, and if I don't look like this, they might just pass me by. Like, all right, that's just another woman. What?
yeah,
Probably here with her boyfriend or husband or whatnot, not on her own merit. But no,
yeah,
no, I'm here on my own merit. I have been for a long time. All the spaces I have inhabited, I have been on my own merit. So it's interesting, and it's always nice to see people who come to you without knowing who you are
yeah,
and wanted to chat with you, like we do, like how we met, and it was just a
yeah,
group of people, and we just started chatting because, hey, so what do you do? Who are you? And like we started chatting, and then we found out how, you know,
yeah. I think
we how
that's
many
the
synergies we
thing.
have.
I think that's the thing about the like-minded people as well, right? Like,
Yeah,
I tried to bring normies to meetups, Web3 meetups, and
yeah,
I'm not doing that anymore because what I realized was that, from there, I just put myself in their shoes, and they're standing there, and like four people talk about something they don't understand with kind of sparkles in their eyes, super excited, using words that are kind of doesn't make sense at all, and some of them are quite weird and crazy looking, and the whole environment is a bit weird, and they just don't
yeah.
get it. They don't really understand where they are at because there is so much context that needs to be translated in
It
between.
is. It's like
So it
dropping
felt like
me in a chemics convention or physics convention.
exactly. So
I'm gonna have a difficult time. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I was like, yeah, maybe this is not the right way to quote unquote onboard people because yeah, I mean, you just make them feel uncomfortable. So
It
so
can be
yeah.
a bit daunting. Yeah, and also if you go straight to the deep end, like, how do you but where do I actually go to? How do I go back to the beginning of all of this? So
Yeah.
going to the deep end, either you are a person that thrives in like also a bit of chaos and like, yeah, yeah, sure, let's just
Yeah.
roll with it. Or but if you need structure, there are like several steps before that just something very small and about one subject. And that's where I think art plays a big role. Every,
Yeah.
Everyone loves art. Not all the art, and not everyone likes the same art, but in one way or another, we all like things that makes us feel things. Like either
Yeah.
they're beautiful things that makes us feel good, they are uncomfortable things that makes us reflect.
Yeah.
But we like that in our lives in one way or
Yeah.
another. So we can always bring someone to talk about the art that we are seeing in the space.
Yeah.
And is this the
Yeah.
type of art you like? Is this the type of art you like? And then we can talk about the technology behind it, the community that is built around that,
Yeah.
and the influences that it has had or will have. So I think that art is a great way to onboard people to the
Yeah.
space. It's
I
less
was very
daunting.
happy. I was very happy when the NFT sort of, hype cycle came in, because, that was the point where I was working in DeFi, and I had this feeling that, it the space was like the DeFi space specifically was losing soul. It was very sort of, people and communities around coins were very sort of ironic, pragmatic. It wasn't really about communities. It was more about money. And it was becoming a little bit kind of, I needed something like for myself specifically. So when the NFTs came in and I started, I'm a fiction author as well. So I kind of, really loved that whole creative space. And when it happened and I started sort of parallel to my quote unquote day job, DeFi day job, I started getting into NFT artist Twitter spaces. And back in those days, Clubhouse, rooms.
Oh God,
like
Clubhouse.
that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, a breath of fresh air. Like I finally ended up with a new sort of, group of people who were approaching this from a different perspective, right? And I felt like the NFTs were a really good way to bring in new group of people, because it was around things that were human and that were about things that people understood. So it was about music, about, as you said, about art, about sort of, stories. And that's what kind of united everyone, and people came in for that, right? So I really liked, I mean, even NBA Top Shots, passion
But
around
it's tangible.
basketball
It makes it
brought in
tangible.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So brought in people. So I felt like that new group of people that came in, we needed that because it was more human and less techy. And we needed that perspective. PFPs probably kind of spoiled that for that group as well eventually. But in the beginning,
That's the
everything
problem
was
of
really
having
nice.
something and having too much of something, right? That is where do you find the balance? Where, and that was the issue. Like PFPs will always, I honestly think they will have a long life in this industry, but having them for profit or having them for community, that is, something that someone gets in for the community, but 10 other got in for profit and they would just want to flip it. That's not going to be a healthy community.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. Like, is it going to be a community around something that is beyond money, or is it going to be a community of speculators? Because the community of
What are the values?
the community of speculators they have their own sort of individualistic vision and goals about being in that community, right? It's not really about making the community better or about lifting each other up. It's about uniting for the mission of pumping a coin or a token price or a floor price, right? And it's different because like the motivation is like my personal gain at the end of the day, which kind of works as long as you are having those gains and stops working as soon as you stop having those
It comes
gains,
from
right?
someone's expense, at someone's expense. So
Exactly.
where are these gains coming? Is it someone's expense or not?
Yeah, in most cases it is, unfortunately, which kind of makes the whole thing harder. And since we mentioned communities, right? Many NFT projects claim that the utility of their token is their community. I truly believe in communities. I'm like big advocate of communities. I really believe that communities make or break projects.
Oh yeah,
But I'm very
100%.
skeptical about most of those projects having utility being the community, because in most cases their community's utility is not valuable, so to speak.
Sometimes they don't have a community to say that about.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of people together is not a community. Like a collection of trees is not a forest. Basically, you have to have a community before you can say that you have a community, and to even assign value to that. And what is the value of this community? And this is something that yesterday came out. I'm not sure when this is airing, so time lapse.
Next week.
No, I just, for people, like I say, yesterday.
Yeah.
So I had the interview that Natalie Stone from Yoga did with Resta Ice, Sonia Head, and myself, and we were talking about community values and punk's values. And this is not something we attributed ourselves back then. This is something that we discovered about ourselves later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What values we have, because we know the values we have because of the actions we took. And that's where you know those are really your values, not because you say that those are your values, but because you act accordingly.
Yeah.
You cannot say some our values are, and we are creating a community, this has been around for a month. You may want the value to be that, and you may want people to join if they share those values, but that's not a given. And that's not,
No,
you cannot say that that is the case for the whole community. But once the
that's good.
community has been around and you have this group of people that are the core, you will always have people coming and going, and people that are more participative than others. But once you have that core and the actions that the community takes are consistent, that's
Yeah.
when you say, like, okay, we have values and we have value as a community because of that. But it takes
Yeah.
time.
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. And I know that the punks community is very strong, and it's kind of, it's been going for quite a while. Do you I mean, and because I haven't been, like, part of it, I don't really know, but I was always kind of wondering, how did Yuga Labs acquisition actually impact the community? Did you like how the community felt, and did it impact in any certain way, or it didn't make any difference for
Well,
you guys?
it was really, we had varied reactions to it. There were people that felt really affected by it,
Hmm.
and there were people like me that I didn't feel that affected by it. Also, because I don't have any control over something, I will only let
Yeah.
it affect me to a certain extent, I guess.
Hmm.
So because I don't have control over it, how much am I going to suffer? I'm going to see
Yeah.
what I want to do about that. That what happened. Some people did get very upset, and I think a lot of it was because it was not communicated with the community. So we feel like we're all part of something together, and then something is done to us. But I thought we were together. Like, how did we not
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
also, if they did know before, would that have gone through? What would have been the reaction? Like, also
Hmm.
difficult for the founders like Matt and John. Like, this grew to proportions that they never expected, and
Yeah.
they don't feel them, like they want and have the tools to handle it. We
Yeah.
are very difficult people, punks. We are very difficult people. I was Natalie asked, like, what, like a word of advice of, like, oh, be always open to listen and be patient, because we're going to say contradictory things.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's
I
difficult to
mean,
work with
I
punks.
mean, that's why they're called punks, right? Like, I don't imagine any punk being like easy
The
going
clue
and
is in the
kind of
title.
easy to handle, right? So it's part of the branding. And it's partially
I
what
like that.
attracts
I
people,
like that
right?
line of thought. It is. I like a line of thought. Yes. What punk is going to be like easy, easily manageable? We're not
Yeah.
easily manageable. We're a group of
No.
people with very strong opinions about something that we love. We care deeply about the project. We have
Yeah.
personas built around it. My online personality, I cannot imagine having a different PFP. Like, probably one day. I will never say never, but I do love my ape a lot.
And you have many to
So,
choose from. Like, you can keep changing them, but they will all be punks, right? So
well, yeah, and I can go, a good part of a year, every week having a different one. But I like this. I like this. What can I say? I like how simple it is. I like the one attribute, and it's nice. But yeah, it's a difficult community to work with, but a lovely community to be in, definitely.
yeah.
So people took it. There were varied, like, there was a spectrum of reactions that people had to the sale. Luckily, like, before we had Noah, and Noah was always in the community. He was open to having calls and to listen. And now that Noah left to be a dad, we have Natalie, and Natalie is also very involved in the community. She is super willing to listen. She has she hasn't been doing this for a few months. She has been doing for this over a year. So she's not like
Mhm.
she just started at yoga either. You have people that have been there for a while and have been learning. And when they get to the position that they're ready. Well, as ready as
Mhm.
one can be for a position that, is so fresh. Even with Noah was very new. So as ready as you can be to guide projects and really be
Yeah.
open to hear comments and criticism and take that to work with the community. It's really difficult.
No, it is.
Naturally
I mean, I can
really
imagine.
appreciate what you do because I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. So,
Yeah,
but but yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting point. Let's go there because you mentioned that, and the founders and kind of selling the project, and it feels like in this space. We had I had these conversations with different founders and some founders who actually left projects and things like
mhm,
that. It feels like the expectation is that when you launch a project in the NFT space specifically, but in general in Web3 as well, people expect you to be there for your lifetime. Like, people expect and think that this is your life mission, right?
yeah.
This is the thing
Now you will retire here.
you are supposed to stick to until the end of your life. And obviously, like, things develop, and at some point, some founders, may decide to exit somehow.
Yeah,
And I feel like, that is the challenging part. Like, how do you manage the exit? Because, like, some very often it can be perceived as a rug pull because you stopped sort of taking care of the project,
yeah,
or in many cases you didn't handle that exit or that handover to the community the right way, so you kind of threw
yeah.
them under the bus and things like that. So I feel it's very challenging. I mean, first of all, I don't believe that we should really put them in a position where we expect them to be there for life, but at the same time, we should have these expectations of, okay, it's fine to leave, but there are right ways to do it,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Uh,
There has to be a process. And I think that's one of the reasons why people shouldn't start projects alone. Because if something very serious and very sudden happens, the project will not be by itself. You have someone that has been there from the beginning or for you know a long period of time that will help make this transition. Because things happen. Either you change your mind and you want something different, or you get sick, or something extraordinary happens
yeah,
and it's out of our control. But people are allowed to change our minds. We are coming from an era where you would get a job and then you retire there, and most of our generation said no. No, that doesn't
mhm,
sound healthy. I might want to do something else. I
yeah,
learn new things. I grow as a person. I might develop different interests and abilities. So why will we not give that same right to people that have developed projects? They do have responsibility, because once you create something, you have a responsibility to people that you onboarded to your creation.
yeah,
But that responsibility is not an obligation. I think that's a big distinction. It's not even marriages last forever.
yeah,
A lot of them don't.
yeah,
So why would a professional partnership have to? I agree with you when you say, how do you do it? What is the best way to move forward from something, but not leave anyone behind?
yeah,
And I'm hoping to see better transitions in the space. It
yeah,
has been abrupt. Also, announcements, when an announcement is made, it catches people off guard. But oh, no, but that was a person that started, X years ago, X months ago. So okay, this person should be prepared to take this role. Oh, great, we know a bit about this. It is a surprise, but it's a welcome surprise, maybe, because we have
mm,
been unhappy with the person in charge, and we don't know how, for example, a PFP project is going to go. Are we going to have any utility to it, because everyone wants utility, right? So what is going to happen with the project? Well, we can have an idea because we know the person that got in,
Yeah.
either from Web3, if the person is not new to the is new to the project, from the project itself, like the person already knows people in the community that the person can reach out to,
Yeah.
because what, who best to give you advice than someone who's in?
Yeah, no, I think that's another point, right? Even when you're not leaving the project, like, but even when you're building it, I feel like the community involvement starts quite late in most cases. You
Yeah,
should actually build it together, because very often, people start building projects, they're super passionate about them, but then because they are doing it completely detached from the community, by the time they start getting people over, that's when they realize that, oh, this wasn't what people actually wanted,
yeah,
or this wasn't how they wanted it to work, etc., etc. So, like, to me, it just doesn't really make sense. To me, like, the community starts from day one, and
yeah,
you build it together with the community, so then they feel this, belonging feeling. They feel this whole, they have this whole idea that they are co-creating it with you, so they feel ownership. And then at the end of the day, you build something that they wanted, so they are eager to use it once it's out, right? So
yeah.
but then, they lose so much time and money and effort doing it completely in isolation, that really doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, it might seem easier because there are less voices to hear and you do what you want. Then
Yeah.
again, you might bring out something that is not what your community wants, and those people are already invested. Why not listen to them, right? If you
Yeah.
already have a community around you, just it is difficult sometimes to do that, to listen to people, to take the time and change your plans, because a lot of times we think we have the best ideas. But my idea
Yeah.
is amazing. It is for you. It's
Yeah.
great, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. And it's humbling and it's true. Sometimes
Yeah.
we do want something very bad and we want to build that thing. And that's great, but that doesn't mean that it will be a community success.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you mentioned something like for everyone. I think that's another mistake that founders are doing, because very often when you ask them who is this for, and they would say everyone who would use it, which is kind of, to me, like, the more specific you are and you create it for that one specific person, the more tailored it gets, and like the better it works. You don't have to please everyone, you don't have to make anything for everyone, because then you end up with something so neutral that it's so
Yeah,
hard to create emotional connection with that thing, because it's kind of, it's very safe and very neutral to
yeah,
be okay for everyone, right? And I think, like, that's, as we said, like with punks, like, it's tailored for specific, back in those days, very, very niche group of people, very small group of
yeah,
people who would actually appreciate that, and who would love it, and who it was made for. I mean, if it was made for everyone, to appeal to everyone, then kind of, yeah, I don't think it would work.
yeah. I don't think so either. And that's the thing. Like, also, Matt and John talk about this a lot. It didn't take them a couple of months to build the Punks project. They tried several things that didn't feel right until that
Mhm.
felt right. That's another thing. It will take time to develop the idea and to see what could be improved. Things that are done in a rush, either they are very unique in doing in getting it very right, or you can definitely improve on that.
Yeah.
So sometimes taking time, and that's, I think, the big difference between building in a bear market and a bull market. You have the time in a bear market to bull to build, sorry. And if you're in a bull market, you're like, okay, things are happening so fast around me, I have to be fast,
Yeah, that's
move
true.
fast and break things. Well, how many things are going to break? Like, what is the damage that you're
Yeah.
causing?
Yeah, that's completely true. And I think like it's always better when you have this, you don't have this noise and the hype and sort of, the hysteria around you when you're building, because then you can hear yourself better. Because as you said, like during the bull markets, it's so easy to get distracted and to segue from what you initially were feeling and thinking
Yeah,
about, right? Because it's all this, big mass movements and hysterical sort of euphoria of Vagmi that, that could be like many people can eventually sort of, forget the the whole why and the whole purpose of why they even started or got into the space, and end up doing, whatever everyone else is doing, because it's tempting, because probably
yeah,
it's easier, because during those cycles, pretty much when one thing works, everyone who copies that for a certain period works too, right? So
yeah,
it's easy and it's a big temptation. Like not many can say no to that, right? So that is why we ended up with 10,000 PFP 0.08 mint price, all
yeah,
animal series or all women character series and all that stuff, because everyone was copying things that worked until they stopped working, and then coming up with something else and then copying that.
yeah.
So it can be very, very distracting, and it can actually make you a copycat, and it's very tempting.
It is, and we have seen a lot of people live the space between, from the last bull market to where we are now, and
Yeah,
a lot of people left because the quick reward wasn't there, and a lot
yeah,
of people left because they had to feed their families and and themselves, and they had to get normie jobs, and they had to get fiat money, and that's understandable as well. But I wonder who of those grifters will be back. Who are those people that were not here for to build something different? We're trying to build something to make things in a different way. And we're using technology, and we're listening to the people around us for that. And those
yeah.
people that just wanted a quick reward, I wonder how quickly they're going to come back, and how quickly will we forget that they left.
Hmm.
People in,
That's
yeah.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't. As just as you, I completely understand everyone who has left. In that sense, but I don't understand people who have left completely. Right? Like you can
Ah,
have, left
yeah,
for 9 to 5 job, normie job, but still have your interests in the space, and still, voice opinions, and still be part of the
yeah,
communities. And to me, those people haven't left because they're still
that's
around,
true.
right?
They're just less
Uh,
active.
yeah, they're still less active because life happened,
Yeah.
market happened, and all that stuff. But those who completely left and are not right, like not
We're
seen and
done in the
heard, and
space.
haven't done anything in the space during bear, and then come back when the bull comes, those are the people that I have problem with.
I agree. I agree. If you can turn your back to something, don't expect that thing to not turn your back to you. So
Yeah,
if you do come back, people have reasons to live, and they have reasons to come back. And if it got toxic, it got difficult for you to be in that space, talk to the people that were close to you, and have an honest conversation. Why did you leave? Why did you disappear? It does happen, and we are humans, and we change our minds. But it is those are exceptions. Those are
yeah,
exceptions to
no,
the
no,
majority of the cases, I guess.
yeah, no, no, I get it. So obviously, building in the bear market, it has its advantages, but also it has lots of disadvantages. Like
Oh, yeah.
many projects are now sort of have very big challenges with their short runways, and sort of it feels like it's very hard to raise at the moment. And all just having a really great idea may not be enough to actually be able to sort of sustain yourself in the market.
Yeah.
So what is your approach like when people are like kind of having these difficulties, when different founders are kind of getting into this, like having their backs against the wall? Do you have any sort of advice of how to approach this in this situation?
Well, there are a couple of things. Like if you already have a product and if you already have a business and your runway is, it's getting shorter and shorter, then there are two things to think about. One is pivoting because you have expertise that I'm sure it's not single use. So what
Mm-hmm.
else can you do with that expertise that would reach more people or different people and expand your market? So if you pivot, where do you go? What can you do? And the people that believed in you then, they can believe in you for this as well. Also because you show that you're trying, that you're not giving up because it got difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can pivot. The moment is when you do something very specific for a niche, and your pivot would either be too big or you lack the capacity to pivot,
Mm-hmm.
and that is difficult, and that I don't even know exactly how to approach that. I think that's one of the best things about having VCs. They understand what you do and your niche, your market, and that can give you advice, or context that can give you advice. Because it can be frustrating and scary and lonely to try
Mm-hmm.
to build in a bear market.
Yeah.
I know we are facing our own issues. So there's always, nothing is just good or just bad, right? There's always the gray. And we're trying to take it slow to try to do it right. We haven't even tried raising funds or anything. So when that time comes, why of the few funds that exist, like funds not in the VC funds, as in like amount of money funds,
Yeah.
of the amount of money, why us? Why our vision? Why our team? What is it that makes us special? But I'm sure there's so many people with great projects. They are very special. They have special abilities. They have special
Mm-hmm.
ways of doing things. And we have to look both at ourselves and to the people that work with us and see that when sometimes we cannot see that in ourselves, it's helpful if you have someone that look at you and say that. So expanding and pivoting on exactly what it is that you do during a bear market is like a survival strategy. It might not be
Mm-hmm.
what you want to do, but it might be what you
Yeah.
have to do. Because a lot of us don't want to leave the space. We don't want to go back to
Yeah.
field work, working on Web 2 or different industries, altogether. We like what we do here.
True.
So better to try to be flexible in what we do here than to be so different that you can barely call, flexibility would be plasticity, because you go to another point
Yeah.
that might not be easy to come back to. So the flexibility that you have, the malleability that you have within the space, if you leave it, it might be really difficult to come back in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and yeah, I know exactly what you mean in that sense. So yeah, I mean, going back, like you had as an OG, like you had quite long journey, and I'm sure you've seen pretty much a bit of everything during this journey, like several different cycles, and loads of
Yeah.
yeah, loads of founders, loads of good stuff, lots of bad and ugly stuff as
Yeah.
well. So anything that sort of has there been any, I don't know, events, ideas, like anything that sort of during that journey has stood out, and you will never forget that?
There are a few things, like during this journey, when we started seeing digital art being traded, exhibited at museums and being auctioned at auction houses, and we are never like, we don't need them. We don't need them. Like we us, we don't need traditional art, but we do. We want everyone to see us the way we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So although we say we don't need them, we want that recognition, and we want everyone to see that there is so much value to the technology, to what we are doing. So it, what that does, it doesn't bring value to us, but it gives us credibility when we talk to other people, the people that are not
Mm-hmm.
in the space. So I've seen conversations change when those things started to happen,
Okay.
and people
Yeah.
that have the connections and put art in museums, and people that put their art for sale at auctions, and auction houses that were open to do that too. um, I find it that it has the ability to change the conversations that we have with people that are not from the space.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need their approval, but their recognition is helpful in changing the conversation, and like the way that we talk about the subject and what we
Yeah.
do with other people, and the technologies that have been added continuously. Like that's I remember when we started seeing like this AI art, right? And like when we started seeing text to image, and how it was, and how we started exploring with it and playing with it and making art with it, how rudimentary it was and how sophisticated it is now. And like video productions, like you just write a script and suddenly there's a person in a video saying what you wrote.
Yeah.
However, this is not it's not a real human reading what you wrote. And I find it amazing, the leaps that that we are
Mm-hmm.
having here. Is
Yeah.
every month there is something genuinely new, and that can change the way we interact with each other and with technology. and and that is, I find, incredibly impressive, the
Mm-hmm.
speed at which things are being added. And this is one of the reasons why it's really good to be early. And although we missed a lot of the early already, the technology leaps that we are seeing, they're just going to keep increasing. So
Yeah.
joining now is still a good time, even if just for that, because you can see the use cases, and it's easier to add the knowledge slowly than it is to try to do it all at once, of course. So joining now and learning more about the technology, even if you don't plan on using it, maybe down the road you will, or someone you know you will, or you will just be embedded into something else you do.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with technology, it will be embedded, and you suddenly start doing like online banking. People didn't do online banking, and then everything's like, it's just common practice now. But
Yeah.
how do
Yeah,
we
it was
use
the
those
same
technologies in our daily
perception,
lives?
right? Like not tangible
Exactly.
money. Like I'm not like I prefer to have the cash in my pocket. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very
But those
similar.
leaps are so current. Like it's every 3 weeks there's something incredibly coming, just, or a different way of using a technology. Like there's just something different.
Yeah. And it's
And
so
those are
hard
the
to
two
keep up with
things.
that.
Oh
even
God, it
when
is.
you are already in the space.
It is so hard. Like podcasts that talk about these things and newsletters that talk about these things, you don't need many. Also because you get overwhelmed with the amount of information, but
Yeah.
get a couple and you're not going to hear about everything.
Mm.
But that's a good thing about a community. Maybe there's someone in your community you can reach out and ask if they heard of something about a specific subject, and maybe they have, or maybe they haven't, and they can point you in the direction of someone that can help you. Because we don't have to know everything, but it helps if you have someone to guide you along
Yeah.
the way.
No, it totally makes sense. You mentioned community, and we will be like slowly wrapping this up. I think like and we touched the point that it's overwhelming when people come in, kind of to filter out stuff and to understand where to
Yeah.
start. And obviously, what you're doing with the women onboarding women into the space is amazing. in terms of communities, apart from the punks, which are the best genuine communities that people could actually join in order to get that OG experience, that magical thing? Are there any communities where that thing is still alive, basically?
I
Where
I
should I
would
go?
very much like to say, yeah, right. I would very much like to say that. I think a couple of places that are safer is where people are learning. So if you go to a place where people are trying to learn about a subject, that you definitely don't have the monetary incentive of flipping. So
Hmm.
those should by default be safer communities, and you will find people that like what you like because you both are there for the technology. So those I would assume can could be safer places to start. But artistic communities, so producing, if either you're producing, you're acquiring new knowledge to produce something, or you're producing art, be painting, digital, writing, music, finding people that like what you like.
Hmm.
However, communities of projects like punks, I find it difficult because I'm not an active member of other communities. I do have, like, Nouns has a lot of good in it, and
Hmm.
Nouns I'm Brazilian, so Nouns Brazil is a very genuine people community of people that really, they do help each other, and when you because they share so much, and pain brings us together, right? And we Brazilians, we have gone through a lot, so if we know of something that can lift us up, we're going to try to lift more people up. Like, we
Hmm.
share a lot as part of our culture, and those are the things that you want to look for. Other people that like sharing, right? That share the spotlight, that share opportunities, that want to
Hmm.
share the credit. So if credit is due, of course.
Yeah.
But if you find those people, those are people that, I would say engage with them, be genuine and honest there,
Yeah.
because this can bring you forward. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I felt like, this space is exciting. It's a roller coaster journey. It's
Yeah.
for people who are very comfortable with fast changes, with uncertainty, and with
Yeah.
having everything always very fresh because there's always something new coming in. So adaptability to sort of, learn things fast, but also embrace new things, being very curious and stuff like that. But also this environment kind of requires that emotional support system, like, being in this kind of environment, even if you really enjoy all the elements of it, and going through it alone is going to be way way harder. So obviously,
Definitely.
kind of, searching and finding your tribe and people you trust, as you mentioned, which is very important in this space, is something that is challenging but needs to be done, because I really doubt anyone is has this emotional foundation strong enough to be able to go through it all by himself.
We're not made to do that. Humans are social beings. We are built for, life in society and community. And we shouldn't try to push ourselves too hard to be loners, if especially if we don't want to. Some people do, and that's fine, great. If you thrive like that, good for you. But don't push yourself to be alone and trying to do everything by yourself because you feel like you should. Reach out. There will be people out there that will resonate with you, and
Yeah.
yeah, those are the people I have to try to find.
Yeah, and I think, like, very often people may think that, they may seem weird or it's very awkward to just reach out to someone you've never met in real life, or you have never spoken online. But from my personal experience, it's kind of, people here are quite open to that. And I personally always, like, my DMs are always open. I always reply to absolutely everyone who writes. So just try. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, the worst thing is you
Right.
won't get a reply, right? So there's nothing super scary about that. So yeah, I encourage people just to go ahead and reach out.
Yeah, my DMs are open, but I am really bad at keeping track of all the DMs I get. But
Yeah, sometimes they
I
get
do.
completely out of control, don't they? Yeah.
They do, but I have like a list of DMs, and I'm really appreciative of when someone like gives a ping or a bump that goes up, because it can get, buried
Yeah.
under a lot of other DMs. I try. It takes sometimes, a while for me to get back, but I try my best. I try my best.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I think we had a very sort of natural flowing discussion, and
Yeah.
we covered quite a lot of points, actually. And I really, I'm really trying to talk about stuff that is not like common topics that people really talk about usually. So I think with you, like, we managed to do that. So
I
thank you
hope
for that.
so. Yeah. Thank you. Like, it was easy to talk to you then. It's easy to talk to you now. It's nice to talk to smart people, right? So thank you.
That's it. Yeah, I always try to find those in the space, and once I find them, I stick around, because it's not
I
yeah,
meant
it's rare.
you.
Well,
I find it
I'm
easy
meaning you.
because I'm really appreciative. Like, thank you so much. It's great to have these conversations, and even getting a little bit of out of the comfort zone. It's always good.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.